And we're back on your TV screens. Just from that breather, it is time for us to get into the newspapers. And yes, we have our guest also seated here in the person of...
Yes, our guest this morning is Honorable Timothy Atabwade.
Awuntirim.
Oh,
Okay.
beautiful. Oh, yeah. I'm excited. So, former MP, Builsa North constituency.
Yes.
Good morning, Honorable.
Good morning, Asedua.
Yes. And Ivy.
Ivy, yes. Ibrahim.
It's a privilege to be with you and to be in your studio. Today is the first time I've been here. It's a beautiful studio. And then I'm so excited that you got the name once. People have taken years to learn the name. Yes, anytime I appear on some other platforms, be they TV or the radio, they often have to battle with it over and over again. So kudos.
Yeah, you are telling me the meaning of your name.
I said that Tabwade simply means that literally you can say that what do I have to eat?
Okay.
But what do you gain from being a wicked fellow? What are the blessings that you get from being wicked? Okay. So it is shortened to me in the full name. You see something like Gasa Tabwade. So yes, so the short name is Atabwade.
And Awuntirim?
Awuntirim means God's gift.
Well, you are definitely God's gift this morning. And this morning we are going to start with the Ghanaian Times. And if you look at the front page of the Ghanaian Times, it says securing 3 billion IMF support. President signs 3 tax bills to pave way for government to bag 4 billion Ghana cedi revenue annually. And then also on the front page of the Ghanaian Times, we have ECG disconnect TTU, 2 others over 3.3 million debt. That is seen on the page 24 of the Ghanaian Times. And then on the front page of the Ghanaian Times, easy to conduct Kumau by-election May 23rd. Yes, that by-election is getting a lot of attention. And if you look in the middle page of the Ghanaian Times, we have Ghana Water, GWCL settles part of the 17.5 million Ghana cedi indebtedness to ECG. Well,
that's cool.
Yeah. And Ministry of Health Institute timetable for elevator use. And also on the middle page, we have allow us to run planting for food and jobs. Well, it is true. We should be allowed to do that. A typical example is where you were yesterday, which I will never forget.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're going, you follow us.
Honorable,
Yeah.
which of these would you want to touch on?
Yeah, we'll look at the 3 bills that the government has sent us to yesterday.
Yeah.
I think that is very important and current as of now. So we'll look at the implications of it.
Okay. Okay. We'll definitely get to have the implications of that. Well, in the same Ghanaian Times, when you get to the back page, it says ECG disconnected. Yes, is the ECG thing. And 2023 domestic outbound tourism survey launched at Winneba. Okay, which other papers are we getting into?
Okay, so we are going to let Honorable start before we move to the next one. So Honorable, you were saying the 3 tax bills that have been passed into law.
Yeah. Yes, let me say good morning to your cherished viewers out there. And once again, good morning. And thanks for appearing on your program. First of all, it must be understood that the 3 tax bills that have been signed into law now is a condition of the IMF. It is a condition, it's part of the structural reforms that the IMF is seeking for us to undertake before the $3 billion is given to us. And this bill is seeking to eke a revenue of almost 4 billion Ghana cedis, and also to curtail our public expenditure and so on. So these are conditions of the IMF. But what are the implications of such bills? You see, and I keep saying that the taxes alone are not enough to remove us from the current economic quagmire that we are. One, the expenditure of government must be cut completely, and that has been an issue with the economy. Now, if you look at this tax, about 2.5% or 5.2% is going to be on gross profit before tax, that is certainly going to affect the employment of various institutions that are under this government. And for me, I think that government must do everything to ensure that they cut down their expenditure. The example is that as at last year, in December, the finance minister admitted that 27 billion Ghana cedis, we lost it through tax exemptions. We lost 27 billion through tax exemptions. So the waste and the corruption, the recklessness with which government spends and borrows is the bane of the issues why we have gotten to this stage. My brother, government borrowed 13 billion euro bonds. If these monies are pumped into capital expenditure, we would have had a situation where the economy that they are attributing the current situation to COVID and Ukraine war, the economy would have had the capacity to absorb the shocks as a result of the Ukraine-Russia war. Where are we now? Those monies cannot, if you merge them with a quantum of capital expenditure, there's nothing home to write about. That is the issue. And if you got $13 billion, if you got 13 billion plus the Paris Club, we got 1.9 billion. China, we are owing the 1.7 billion. That is a total over 16 billion. If that money could not do magic for you, is it the $3 billion that is going to do magic for you? And the interesting thing about this, man, it comes in tranches.
So
you went to the capital. It doesn't come in bulk. It's spread over the next 3 years.
In that way of speaking, it means that what you're actually even going in for the money to use might not necessarily be used to its full capacity. Is that the case?
People must understand that it is not just the 3 billion that is coming. It's a way of ensuring fiscal discipline because of our reckless spending by this government. It is only to police you.
Right.
To say that, look, we are going to release it by trenches. If you don't do ABC, we are not going to. So that will put you in check. And the IMF is also equally worried whether we will slip back into the situation we are. So the 3 billion actually is not just the money, but it's to police us. Obviously, you cannot be policing me when my situation is bad. You need to put me on the right trajectory and ensure that I do not slip back to the doldrums or where you are picking me from. So it is, the main issue is not the money, but to ensure fiscal discipline. So that we move from this current situation to a better situation.
Right. So yesterday, Finance Minister mentioned that we are looking to cutting some expenditure towards getting the money from IMF. So he has mentioned it, that they are looking at further expenditure cuts.
You see, what amazes and amuses me about this government is that these are the government that bastardized IMF. They are now jubilating all over. Can you look at the irony? They are the people who told us that going to the IMF is like going to the devil's dungeon, and you should not dare go to the devil's house. Today they are jubilating over what? When you had so much, when we handed over sources of revenue to you, from ESLA to GET Fund, you name it, as I talked to you this morning, the GET Fund has not been passed because it's empty. No money in GET Fund. There's no money in GET Fund. So before Parliament rose, they were not able to pass the GET Fund formula because it's empty. All monies that you borrowed. And look at the interesting thing. You called John Mahama and the NDC incompetent. We handed over a balance sheet to you. You used our balance sheet, the incompetent balance sheet, to borrow over 16 billion. That's an incompetent balance sheet. And when you handed over to yourself and you went to the capital market as a competent government, you were sacked. Look at the irony. You use an incompetent man's balance sheet to go and borrow over 13, 16 billion. And you hand it over to yourself, went there, and you were sacked. Look, what expenditure is talking about. When they started spending recklessly, and we're talking to them, cautioning, there are a lot of people cautioning, including MPP economists and senior members. They told us that they know what they were doing, and that we should look at the end result. Is that the end result we're expecting? Look at the IMF boss. Look at what the woman said, that Ghana is an innocent bystander that was caught in the Russian-Ukrainian war. That statement is loaded. It's loaded, it's pregnant. Innocent bystander, and you were caught in a war, and those warring factions, their economy has not been destroyed. And it's just like the two of you fighting, and I'm standing, and one of you threw a blow, and then it gets to me. And then I say that the whole fight is on me.
About you.
It's not that. It's reckless spending, careless borrowing, and so they were cautioned. Today, you spend so much on unbudgeted things like the cathedral. A lot of waste went there, and we are still having the biggest dugout in the world today.
Is that to say during the NDC era, there wasn't any reckless spending that also amounted into us going for more money and being indebted more?
You know why? You know the difference? We borrowed money, but we used them for capital investment, and they paid themselves off. We didn't borrow to spend like the Atuabo gas, of which I was a member of parliament at the time, that we went to China and borrowed, and we pumped $1 billion into. And today, as I speak to you this morning, the Atuabo gas yields $300 million per year. The expansion of the MPS, you know it, the port, is giving us over $200 million.
Where are all these monies going?
I'm coming.
Okay.
The Terminal 3 has paid itself off. They even ashamedly shared the shops there to themselves. A project that was done by the taxpayers' money, you failed to commission it up to today that we are talking because your predecessor did it. We can go on and on. Look at the number of hospitals. The Rich Hospital was part of the Parliamentary Committee on Health that sourced for the funding. What do you call it? The University of Ghana Hospital, in which your Minister for Health said that he was relaxing there. He thought that it was a 5-star hotel. And he was relaxing there. He didn't know it was a hospital. So we can go on. The issue is there must be a conscious effort to invest money into capital paying off projects by themselves. Look at the interchanges around this country. Let me tell you that the interchange in, Pukwasi, is less than $100 million. So $1 billion can give us 10 of those interchanges. $1 billion can give us. Where are the interchanges they built? Everything that came and did, we started the foundation, apart from the Tamale overpass that they did, where I go regularly because my family is there.
Okay. But are interchanges what we actually need presently and currently in this country?
Now, that is left for our managers of the economy to determine what. But for now, it's the economy that has been destroyed beyond repairs. Everything is gone haywire. Inflation is up. Interest rates are going up. Your economy has been rated as junk.
Okay.
Your CD is nothing to write home about. Your fuel prices are unending. They are escalating. These are the daily issues that confront our people. Here's a lady. These days, I try to go to market to buy some food.
Okay.
I said I want to buy tomato and some few things to do. Right. And you give 10 cedis, and the tomato is about 3. They give you about 3 of them and so on. Even salt, pepper has gone up. These are the things that, and the destruction of businesses, and the fact that businesses are not growing. You saw the letter from ports talking about the volumes of trade that are reduced. Tax exemptions by this government is used not in the proper context of it. How do you give $24 million tax exemption to Pullman Hotel? That is at the airport. That is at that stagnant stage up to today, and the money is gone. Probably he's investing it in other areas. These are the real issues. These are the reckless spendings of the government that has not brought us anything here.
Can you, what do you make of the World Bank committing to giving Ghana $250 million towards the Ghana Stability Fund?
Yes, because we even established the Stability Fund. You remember it?
Yes.
That money has been squandered. The COVID that they talked about, that was an issue. COVID rather raked in more than 30 billion.
Honorable, when you say it's been squandered, you say it's been squandered, should you have evidence to prove that?
Can they account? Must I have the evidence? Haven't you been reading the Auditor General report that tells us over 52 billion? Am I the Auditor General? Did I appoint him? The answer should be, the people should be held accountable. Those whose people's power has been entrusted to them must be held accountable to explain to you and I. We've been putting them on their toes. What did they tell us at the beginning? We were incompetent, that they were coming to change the system from what? Taxation to production. Tell me one thing they've produced. How many of the factories are working? None. Tell me, when you want to tell that a Kunfi. So, with all this in Kunfi that you can boast about, you have seen the revelations by, I think by Joy, and a colleague of mine who was also an MP said, what they did to him, we can go on and on. The mistakes, the atrocities are numerous. Highly do you finish discussing one problem and another cross in. Highly, a daily occurrences under this government. We are tired. Look at before these taxes, we had introduced over 18 taxes. COVID tax. Can you imagine these people? You've spent over 30 billion and we are again paying for COVID tax. We are paying for energy stabilization levy and all those baller taxes. My brother, open your eyes and shine your eyes. We are being used as pawns. We are being milked by the day. The World Bank giving us $250 million. Have we not accepted the fact that we are no more, what is it? Aid for what? What? You see, their sloganeering are so many. We are not a country that is going to take aid and so on. Right. Look, the amount of waste. We won't even go into forensic audit. Just take the ordinary audit reports and tell me that amount of money that has been lost. You know, when we're tender, they say, oh, the audit report. They again went round and came and then told us that the Auditor General has retrieved 2.5 billion. Then I asked them, if indeed the audit reports were not correct, how come that the Auditor General retrieved 2.5 billion? We left for you as in bank.
Okay,
all those things.
Right, Honorable.
Okay, I'm sure we can go on and on and on.
We can go on.
So almost all of the newspapers are reporting the EC to conduct Kumewu by-election in May, on May 23rd. And so I believe you have something to say in relation, especially with what Mark Menu said, that he, hoped that we wouldn't go for by-elections when it comes to replacing a vacant seat in Parliament. And so let's talk about
everything
that.
is done by law. We've bestowed onto ourselves a constitution that we are guided by that. And by-elections, they do occur. We all know the circumstances under which by-elections do occur. And we've had by-elections since 1992 up to today. There have often been acrimonious, bitterness, rancor, destruction of life and property as seen in the Ayawaso West, war gone. Now, by-elections too, they are also a measure in some courtesies to determine how popular the ruling government is or how successful your policies have resonated well with the people. So they can use that as a measuring stick or as a yardstick to determine your popularity. It is not so because data in this part of the world and the criteria to measure this are often more skewed towards the people in power. Unlike in the US, where we have midterm elections to determine the popularity or otherwise of a political party, it can be a good measure. Our part, we've looked at by-elections as if it's a do or die. Not all die be die. It's a do or die affairs. So we go there prepared not to really sell our candidates, but we go there with instruments that can endure. And indeed, it did endure people. In the case of Ayawa, people are still maimed up today. So for me, looking at it from that angle, and looking at the fact that it is very expensive and costly by the ruling government, and equally for the opposition parties that are there, and the fact that political parties in this part of the world are not state-sponsored. You need to mobilize both human and material resources for it. The political parties could come together and determine whether by-elections should go the way we are going. We've practiced this, our participatory democracy, for over 30 years, I think 31 years. And no law done under the sun that when you don't practicalize it, you cannot see the shortcomings and begin to streamline it. So I would say that it's a matter to be determined by the political parties, just like IPAC meets there. And you see, it even goes beyond that. It also affects the judiciary. Look at how the judiciary determines cases involving parliamentary elections and so on. Sometimes it takes a whole year or 2 years to determine otherwise or not of a parliamentary candidate who has challenged the result. So it's a whole issue that we must look at. For me, if it comes that political parties whose parliamentary candidate has either resigned or died, creating room for by-elections, that they should be replaced, so be it. We can look at the pros and cons of it, but I think this is not the first time it has been said. The majority leader now said it some time ago, and I also remember faintly that there was a time that both political parties, NDC and MP, there was a by-election that was created. Okay. We never went to take part, but I think it was left with 1 year to an election. So the issue was that...
So with this, the NDC collectively, is the NDC collectively saying that you would opt for appointment for a vacant seat in Parliament rather than contesting the seat?
No, that's why I said this is a new suggestion. It's been in the pipeline. The party will look at it. Okay. And not just the party. We have civil society organizations. We have our political science department. We have all... We'll do a lot of broader consultations. Okay. If it is agreed that looking at the rancor, the bitterness, the destruction to life and property involved in by-elections, the cost involved, and the time and energy, then we can say that, why? Let us remember, because the Constitution clearly even demonstrates how a president who has passed on or resigned, how it should be conducted. But there's a caveat that says that if the president had covered about 2/3 or 3/4 of his time, then the succeeding president, who is the vice president in this case, like it happened where we had to then bring in the vice president, that of the parliamentary candidate is not, the MP is not so clear, because if it could also be that if a parliamentary, an MP serves about half of his term or 2/3 of the term, we can let go. Okay. You understand? Yeah. In the case of the presidential law, it allows that after, I think about 2/3 or so, then the next president or the vice that takes over is eligible to contest. But if you hadn't served that, then you come in, you are no more eligible to contest if you finish his term. Assuming that we elected a president, he passed on anything that happens and he resigns in his first year, the vice president who will serve the remaining 3 years is not eligible to contest again.
Honorable,
so in the case of the MP, we don't have that law that categorically says that. The law has only created a by-election possibility and so on. So if after 30 years of participatory democracy, we feel that we can carve a law to deal with that, to reduce all the challenges of a by-election, so be it and for it.
Honorable, how do we curb violence away from by-elections? Because a lot of violence happens at these by-elections. How can we curb that off?
We can curb that off in a lot of ways. You see, our state security should be allowed to operate independently. And in by-elections, after you've closed your campaign, you should go away and leave the people for whom the by-election is being conducted for.
So what you're saying right now, why doesn't it be the case, or why doesn't that happen?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't happen because sometimes by-election themselves look like it is a measure of how the acceptability or otherwise of a ruling political party is. So you see that the government in power would try to put in all the resources during by-election. Interestingly, you know that by-elections also bring goodies to the people of the area that has been affected. If they were crying for water, they were crying for school infrastructure or roads, they will begin to construct them. Right. The people are also, their palms are greased. They begin to have money, business go in the short period. You understand? So it's a caboodle of issues, a mixture of issues that we need to separate them. But for me, I think that it should not be a do or die issue. It should be an issue that we've been having by-election as occasion, sad that it has happened. How can the people get a proper replacement? Why should replacing a candidate for a dead fellow or otherwise lead to violence, bitterness, rancor, destruction of property, and so on? Why should that be? Are we in the Neolithic ages? Or we have moved? Look at the way we have moved from independence. We've had our republic being, interrupted. This is the fourth republic. Yeah. And we still cannot manage simple by-elections. It must go with bloodshed. Why should someone die before someone becomes his representative? So for me, the issues of violence are created by the political parties. I will not sit here and say that we have not been part of it, we have been part. But we can also solve it as a political party. When it comes to time of voting, you campaign, the day of the voting, all the political parties should pack out. Again, you have your representatives to police the ballot and so on.
Yeah.
Why would your presence and security people be needed and the state, for instance, what happened at Yawaso, why would the state take the taxpayers' money, go and then get uniform, give it to untrained hoodlums to come there and say they were using the grounds to test and to practice how they are going to? Why should it be war?
Well, speaking
when we are
of
simply wanting to use our thumbprint. Why should our thumbprint turn to AK-47?
Right. So speaking of security during elections, well, IGP unveils 2 major election security interventions, and that is on the Finder. So, Honorable, kindly read the front page of the Finder for us.
Besides, you read which page?
Yeah, so the front page. Every story on there. So you
we'll still have some topics. The school issue.
We will.
Yes,
we will get into that.
So let me see if I can read.
Okay. Yeah, you can read.
So that's the Finder.
The IGP unveils 2 major election security interventions. Thieves steal 14 computers of blind students at Akria PMSS. Wow. These thieves, they don't even sympathize with the blind students.
Yeah.
Chieftaincy Minister, Boku chiefs explore avenues for lasting peace. ECG loses 1 billion to power theft annually. MD appeals to public to report perpetrators. Ghana Armed Forces seizes over 20,000 pieces of illegal explosives.
Wow.
Beautiful. Wow. Yeah. 20,000 of illegal explosives in just Takwa, not the whole country, and not Obuans, and not elsewhere that we have mining and other issues that have to do with minerals and so on. Just that one. So you can begin to look at other areas too. We don't know the quantum of illegal explosives in Obuans and other areas and so on.
It is
so
not even
stated sitting on is it a mine?
Yeah.
It is not even stated that this is all that
that is what
the Takwa environs has. Yeah. This is what they've been able to confiscate. So you can just imagine the number or the quantum that even exists in Takwa alone.
Yes. Yes.
Before the other mining
areas and so on. We are just a country that is sitting on a time bomb. That is why statements by like Brian Achampon should not be countenanced any day, anywhere in the world. You see, and I kept saying that the weakest explanation ever that an infantile will not even explain is the fact that they were responding to President John Dramani Mahama. Is the weakest explanation ever created in the history, in our history, that you were responding. You got a big platform to empathize and sympathize with the people of this country through the economic mess you created. You had the biggest platform to explain and rally the people of Ghana behind you in an Easter period. 2 issues that happened. Ramadan, the month of, the holy month of the Muslims. And Christians were celebrating the death and resurrection of Christ. You go and look into Christ's eyes and issue missiles on the period that he died. You think you can live to see the Holy Spirit? All those who grieve the Holy Spirit will not live to see the day the Holy Spirit will come. All those who grieve the Holy Spirit. And history have told us that people like that. I keep mentioning it. I said the Beatles band. In the 1960s, at Florida, the Beatles band went to play, and the crowd was so overwhelming that the leader of the band, John Lennon, said that the Beatles band was popular than Jesus Christ. And from that day up to today, the band collapsed. It has never resurrected. So those who look into Christ and grieve the Holy Spirit by releasing that missile from a pool. They should be prepared. When the gun begins to fire, no one can hold the barrel of the gun. And he has the biggest investment in terms of his rock city and other properties that you have got. Yeah. The rebels would turn that rock city into a rebel-held area and begin to attack. The investments in this country are in the hands of most businessmen linked to the MPP.
The way you're talking like you have fact or you have an insight of something about to happen.
No, but why should violence be coming from our mouth? Someone thinks that he holds the Olympic champion for violence and that they say you should go and talk. You are Brian Achampo. We know you for violence. Go and release missiles. Look at the body language. Whom were you talking to? Your own MPP people. You were talking to them like that. And those who were standing behind him, look at their stomachs. Their stomachs were bloated.
What has their stomachs got to do with?
They have to do because they are benefiting the food soldiers they brought there. I'm not going to benefit. And they've not benefited from the largesse or the spoils of our political power. Look at all of them behind him. Some of them, their stomachs were big that when they started, it was pushing the other people behind them.
Honorable. Okay, Honorable, right. Honorable, let's move on to the next story. Let's talk about ECG losing 1 billion Ghana cedis to power theft annually. Somewhere around last week, Kwame Sefakai mentioned some of the ways that these perpetrators are stealing money from ECG, and even some are coming from ECG itself.
ECG, yes.
So the app, the ECG app, so it works perfectly. It works for a lot of people. But then some have begun to notice that when you pay money to purchase lights through the app, the money, yes, your account is debited, but then it doesn't reflect on your meter. So it's like someone in there from ECG is taking the money. So
typical example, let me use what I have been through, my experience. So the whole of 2022, all the bills we have paid, we have been given receipt, but it has not reflected on their machine in the company that we have been paying. So something happens and we went there and they say we have not paid the whole of 2022. Imagine. So we had to just show them the receipt that we have been giving. But it hadn't reflected in their system. It had not reflected in their system. There's a personal experience.
You see, the issue of ECG and other service providers in this country, they've taken the consumer for granted, and they are always right. Why would a company like ECG lose 1 billion Ghana cedis? Why would they do that? And yet they are bankrupt. When we're leaving power, ECG had made profit, Greco made profit, Netco made profit. How come that they fall into this? It means the quantum of the power theft aided by ECG workers is on the ascendancy. That is why it is going to this. Why would you be having meters and this is what happen? Look, anytime you have challenges with the ECG, you even call their line, they will not pick it.
No, they won't.
They've destroyed people's property through their unreliable ways of putting off lights and so on, and people have suffered. People's houses have got burnt because of improper wiring and so on and so forth. ECG must be made to fish out the bad boys within a system alone. There are some services, if you go to ECG, my brother, it's supposed to be free. You go, when you don't pay, they don't come. For instance, my own power, the card, had a problem. I went there to get it changed. They told me that they were finished and they were waiting for someone from headquarters. How can that be true? When I wanted to go, the guy told me that, okay, I should wait and they will see whether they will go in and get, and they got me a card and I have to pay.
Oh, really?
And that thing is free. So no one can steal ECG's power without being aided by ECG staff themselves.
So you believe this possibly could be an inside job?
It's an inside job. No one can steal, trust me. They know all the illegal corners. They go there to take money. They go there to take money. All the improper metering they are doing, they benefit from it.
You have any evidence on
I have a lot of evidence, just like you had your evidence. I've told you one evidence of mine that I went to for the car to be replaced, which is free. Yes. And I had to pay for it because I needed it. I even asked them My things are in the fridge. What happens?
Who checks all these things?
They have a system to check themselves, but I think that now they are overwhelmed because of probably the economic crime that every institution under this government is going through, cutting down, and then their books are so bad that they cannot borrow again. So they need to do this, and I think that it's about time, not just ECG, all the service providers, including Ghana Water, including even mobile telecoms and so on.
Okay.
There's no any way you can do still without the NCA knowing. All we know about the NCA is that they do things that are not. I don't want to go there because my sister started to laugh, but we know what they do there. You understand? So for me, look at when ECG was is it leased to that the flipping company? What is the name? That the shares were distributed like granules among some actors within this government. When we took back the contract from them, up to today, they used ECG's name, took monies. We don't know, they've not accounted to anyone. They've not accounted to anyone. How can you do that to the people of the government? And it's under this government.
Well, the ECG boss has issued a communique that there is going to be an investigation into this for it to, stop into this theft and all these cases for it to.
We hope that he does good investigations, but you see, this government is allergic to investigations. And any time there's an investigation against people within their circle, what do? They clear them. You know, the president has become a clearing agent. In fact, he holds that title, and no one can take it away from him. And I can, if you want me to go on that, I can go on and on and on and on. You understand? Okay. So for me, we are hoping that this type of investigation that is supposed to be set up to investigate into an institution like ECG will be done properly. No one should put any spokes in the front of investigators. We saw how Domlevo was investigating the senior minister. And because of that, he was even told he's a Togolese. And his laws were changed. So these people, they are allergic to investigations. I don't know how they are going to do that. We may need heavy doses of chemotherapy to be able to
release them. Always, a political interference into investigations like these?
Are you asking? Ask the clearing agent, the chief clearing agent at the Flagstaff House, because he promises of good governance. He promised us of an anti-corruption government. He promised us of a disciplined appointees and so on. If his appointees are now reeling under corruption and of bad governance, he should be held responsible. And anytime you are holding them responsible, they become jittery, unnecessarily annoying, and you see all the veins in their necks coming out, strenuously trying to explain issues away. This entrusted power given to them, the power is not by inheritance. It's not chieftaincy. It has been given to them by the people of this country. So we expect them to use that power in the best interest of the people, because sovereignty rests with the people. It's only borrowed to the people who are the Flagstaff House. And they must be cautious of that sovereignty, because when the good of the people turns ugly, no one can stand the wrath of the people. If you go to Sri Lanka, it happened. Rajapaksa and his people took off. Go to all other countries. Go to Iran, the Shah regime. Go to Rwanda. You mentioned them. Okay. So for me, corruption, misgovernance, and mismanagement that has plagued our institution must completely be dealt with. We all know that you cannot immediately remove all this corruption, but reduce it to the best of your ability. Let people see that you are doing it. The president in so many, about 3 times of the State of Nation address has not mentioned corruption. In fact, he has thrown it to the dogs. He has not mentioned corruption at all. And 3 times that the president has been doing State of Nation address.
Maybe he believes that, to his best of knowledge, it is being dealt with very well.
But the data should show. Why should the data keep telling us about issues? Highly that a day passes, you are in the media, that we don't hear about theft, corruption, mismanagement, steal. Even, you know what, sometimes it hurts me. Let me tell you something this morning. Look,
Honorable
government appointees, you appoint a government appointee, you know that the fellow salary, let's take everything that takes away at home is 50,000. That fellow, you appointed him for a period of 4 years. Within 2 years, the fellow has built 32 flats He has built he has bought houses. And the president is not conscious that this is my appointee, your salary, everything is 50,000. How come that you have been able to build 32 flats? And I am not saying anything.
But this is not one-sided.
Yeah, exactly.
MPP does it, NDC does it.
Yeah, well, yes.
It is not one-sided.
I'm not saying that. You see, human beings were generally born what? Born selfish. We are generally born corrupt. But the institutions to deal with corruption, both vertical and horizontal, must be up and doing, and it doesn't matter whose odds are God. What matters is that when you are caught, it should be dealt with in accordance with the law.
Okay, Honorable.
I'm glad you're saying this, but let's move on to the next newspaper.
So the next newspaper is ABC News. ABC News on the side of truth. And on the front page, we have Kumewu votes on May 23rd. This is from EC. We've already spoken about that. And so, Honorable, the story that you wanted to talk about, SCC bus carrying SHS students crashes on Kaswa Cape Coast Highway. We have editorial. We have there is nothing sinful about listening to secular songs. This story. And then we have Africa must break the shackles of the mindset of impossibility. And this is from Vice President Mahmoud Bawumia. Africa must break the shackles of the mindset of impossibility. Honorable, so during Prime Insight, we are going to talk about the whole SCC bus carrying SHS students crashing on Kaswa Cape Coast Road Highway. And so Honorable has something to say in relation to the road accident that happened yesterday.
You see, it is painful that especially our kids are going. Where were they coming from?
They were going back to school, I believe, from the Easter break.
And this has been the challenge with this educational system. Look, my son is in one of the secondary schools in Kumasi. Okay. When the educational system, when the free HSS started, my daughter was in the one at Oketia, what is the name?
The one in Oketia?
St. Roses.
St. Roses. St. Roses.
Okay. I used to go there. And you see, students come to school and they spend more days at home. So they are always on the road traveling. They just came and they are back again and they are coming up. And if STC is supposed to be one of the safest means of transport, couldn't carry our students back to school and they have such accident, it can be distressing to especially parents and even a trauma to the students and so on. When I heard it, my heart leaped because there was an earlier story about how some students in the north, I think within Walwale area or so, that equally had an accident. They send the information to WhatsApps for people to identify them and to tell, to notify their parents about it. So for me, and the way we plow on our roads is absolute carelessness. Sometimes you see a driver driving carelessly, and even the police who are supposed to ensure sanity on the road, they look at, sometimes you draw the attention to the lorry. Ivy is driving this way, and they will not even mind. I've had millions of times to tell police to ensure that there's sanity on the road. Look at how we allow tipper trucks to load in the daytime, toot their horns, blow their horns, and speed in the midst of crowd. It has happened severally. You know, one of them broke the motorway.
The motorway,
They've run into people. People drive carelessly, crossing here and then. We cannot do anything after so many years of preaching about, what do you call it? Safety on our road.
Road safety?
Sometimes, you see, and I've taken issues with the police, but if you have a police force, that the recruitment is shrouded in partisanship, that even the police who are there are buying their uniforms, are buying their boots with their personal money. This is what it leads to. And for me, the police must be motivated beyond doubt. They must be motivated to the extent that they are able to foresee some of these things and stop to caution.
Well, as of yesterday, updates on what actually happened. So it was between the SCC bus and an articulator truck. Sure. And the articulator truck driver said that he saw that the driver of the SCC bus was not controlling the steering wheel properly. Lost control. So he gave way. He was trying to give way for the SCC bus to pass. So he giving way. That was the SCC bus, regardlessly, came into crashing into him.
And currently on your TV screens right now.
Were they deaf? I don't know.
No. As of yesterday.
The STC, normally they have two drivers. if one of them is fidgeting, then the other one quickly takes over. So I don't know what happened at that, but I think that there should be much more caution on the road.
Well, it's currently on your TV screens. That is what you're seeing. The accident
Are we discussing the toilet school facility?
The accident scene is what you're seeing
unfortunately,
right now on
the newspapers haven't reported it, but we will bring that up because it's part of the conversation for Prime Insights. And so, viewers, we will be speaking to Nana Komia, the CEO of SCC. We'll be speaking to him during Prime Insights as well, and get some updates as to what has happened so far. Because as of yesterday, we only had 6 that were in critical condition. The others were fine. So this morning, what have they heard? What are the reports that have come in so far? And what's really happened?
And
one question
compensation.
Compensation as well. But one main question that some people were asking after hearing of the accident yesterday was that, okay, so were there no checks, proper checks of if the bus was in good condition before it left? Does the STC do that often?
I think they do regular check.
Before,
so and then the drivers also equally report. Anytime they find anything amiss with the system, when they can't, they do. And they have their own mechanics who do the checking.
Right.
They have a maintenance department.
Okay, so we'll be speaking to Nana Komia to give us details as to what exactly goes on in the yard of the STC before the buses move. And so...
one thing, when you read from the ABC front page, that I saw Honorable wanting to touch on was the Africans must break the shackles of the mindset of impossibilities by the second gentleman of the... I saw that you wanted to touch on it.
Because he should not be talking that way. They are the leaders. Mindset of impossibilities. In fact, Baumia himself, do you know how he has led us into the doldrum?
But shouldn't we break from that mindset?
If your leaders are leading you into the state of impossibilities, if your leaders that are supposed to mirror good governance, if your leaders that are supposed to show the younger generation behind them a sense of good governance, and this is why they tell, look, under Baumia, this government printed over 50 billion Ghana cedis to take government expenditure. What did you do for the Bank of Ghana to print? Just printing and putting money into a dustbin. Is that not what they were doing? What was the money printed for? Was it used for any investment or for any development? And they did it at the backside of Parliament. So the mindset of impossibilities have been, it's a bane, but it has been set up by leaders like Dr. Bao. He should not be talking. He has annoyed people in this country to the extent that people don't even want to be seeing him.
Are you sure?
What? Do you want to be seen by me, my sister?
He's the second gentleman.
Yes, not just literally seeing him. You want to see him, but has he led you to the land of destiny that he was telling us? Has he led us to the land of destiny when he came promising us honey and milk and called the previous government all sorts of names? It is unfolding 100 times.
And moving the country from taxation to production.
Which of the leaders have actually led us to the land of, to the promised land?
Is that what?
Which of the leaders?
Which of the leaders?
Yes, have led us to the promised land.
There's no any country in the world that the leaders have led them to the promise. The promised land is still there. But don't make going to the promised land and put thorns and scorpions and snakes on going to the promised land. When Moses was leading the people from Egypt to cross the Red Sea, if Moses was not anointed by the people and when they asked a false leader, he wouldn't have been able to divide the Red Sea. But because he was anointed by God to lead the people, when he got to the Red Sea opened up. So when we get false leaders, we get people pretentiously come with sugar-coated words and they bandit about all the untested theories all over the world and said this is the way we should move. And when we are crumbling, they should eat a humble pie and tell us that they are sorry. They should not be belligerent. They should not be arrogant to us. They should not be telling us about impossibilities when in fact they are the alpha and omega of impossibilities in this country.
So, Honorable, what you're saying, would you say that, or are you trying to say that our leaders have not been appointed by God?
Some of the leaders, they are false leaders. You don't see that.
How?
How? when a leader tells us that he's going to change you from taxation to production, he's going to give you one district, one factory, one village, one dam. And he ends up telling that he has built toilets.
So he's not appointed by God then?
Why? If God, look, let me tell you, if you are a you see, there's this thing that in the Latin magazine, Vox Populi, Vox Dei. The voice of the people is the voice of God. In the book of Romans, it is stated that we must respect our elected leaders. Once that leader has been chosen by the people, God is in his infinite wisdom would obviously guide you in the times of challenges. It doesn't mean that there will not be challenges, but because you represent the people, God will see you through. But when you come under the guise of being a leader of the people, and the people then turn out that you're a false leader, then your challenges will continue to mount. You 10-year challenges. Look, hardly does a newspaper go a day. We don't even finish discussing a major scandal. Why? I've never been born with scandal. I did the only government since the days of independence that we have made that day alone. Scandal, scandal, scandal. Didn't Kufuor come to power? Was that the scandals we're seeing? Wasn't Rawlings there? Atamis and Joma? Were they the scandals we're seeing? It means that they came through the back door. And when you come through the back door, you rule through the back door.
They were voted into power.
They were voted because they came with sugar-coated words. You know how Satan works? Huh?
Okay, so
you know how Satan works.
So
come with sugar-coated words
and being voted into power.
When you commit the crime, the Satan will run away and say, "Look at this fool! I brought you. You are misbehaving."
So because of the sugar-coated word,
yes, the people were swayed.
Backdoor.
Yes, the people were swayed to believe that we are going to have. In any case, which country in the world has got a district per a factory per district? Tell me the whole globe. Which country in the world do you have one district, one factory? Is that how the tigers of Asia developed?
Isn't that what politicians do? Isn't that what politicians do? Come with all sorts of promises.
Yes, but those promises must be tested. My brother, you see the problem with this government. In fact, the president told us that he has been in this route to become a president for how many years? Over 40 years. Yeah. What it meant is that he has learned through each president. So she's able
so he should have been
to sieve the good things of all the shortcomings of the various presidents that he has seen, even Nkrumah, and become the best. He has the best of it. In fact, it's a government that has gotten revenue up to 1 trillion Ghana cedis. 1 trillion. I've ever heard of that figure before. This government has gotten that. Can you match the quantum of development or infrastructure to this? Remember when you came and told us that the economy is not developed by brick and mortar and of steel, but by institutions. So you know that the economy is developed by institutions. You have been sitting on the institutions and you are not releasing them. And he came and told us that there was a tornado. And that tornado, that if you build your house, look at his scenarios, all the time he's always concocting things. That if you build your house and then a carpenter doesn't roof it well, then the wind comes to take it off. And the other one, it's well built, but there was a tornado. Then would you blame the one who built that? So there was no tornado in Togo. There was no tornado in Ivory Coast. There was no tornado in all the countries the tornadoes have now found their way into this country. This is someone who cannot even stick to his own words. This is someone who will tell you this, that if the fundamentals are wrong, the exchange rate would expose you the next day. That is true. But you see, it's the rate of change. How do you follow such a fellow?
Do you think that we could ever get to a point where both parties would come together and see the way forward for Ghana? Because it seems that every single time that the ruling government is to come up with, and it was the same when your government was in power, MPP was always countering whatever that you were doing because they were seeing it as it wouldn't progress the country. Now MPP is in power. They are bringing out ways and means, going to IMF, World Bank is giving us money here and there. You are countering all of that. Why would we ever get to a point where MPP and NDC will say that, can we just come together and put the people first and forget about, no, this thing that this government is doing is not right. When I come into power, I will take this out. And there's one main thing that some Ghanaians are also saying, that when former president of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama in his speeches, oh, when I come, I'll take this off. When I come into power, this would be better and all that. Why can't we just put the Ghanaian people first? Because it doesn't look that way.
Look, why should we come together? When these people brought their manifesto and sold it to you and call you the one who was there incompetent, and that they even said that we have sent our incompetence to the international level.
So because of the incompetence?
I'm coming. Not because of that. Okay. You see, Ghanaians are testing both sides. Okay. And they see the genuineness with which another political party has worked. And the other political have only come to amass wealth, to steal, to destroy. They've seen, they've tested both water and drink. At that time, when we read there, the Ghanaian people will determine. That's why I keep using the word, it's entrusted power. That's what the Constitution said, you cannot stay there forever. Your mandate is renewed after 4 years. It will let the people down to know whether if you are buying a gallon of petrol at our time at 14 cedis, and now you are buying over 80. If your currency, your inflation level as we talk now, the statistical service is now 45. You took it from a point and when then you don't even have the humility to come and apologize. All what we keep seeing is arrogance, is insult, is mockery. It's telling us that whether you want it or not, we are in power, we are going to break it. The breaking of the 8 was given to you by the people of this country. So allow the people to break the 8. If you keep singing that you break an 8 after this abysmal performance, are you not insulting the electors whom sovereignty rests with them? Are you not insulting our people whom sovereignty resides in them? Sovereignty does not reside in parliament, does not reside in the president, neither does it reside in the judiciary. It resides in the people of this country. So a time will come, like my sister has said, the people of this country will know which government has the best of the people at heart, apart from people, these charlatans who come. And how on earth do you have a finance minister that borrowing alone, sitting and borrowing like the way my sister is sitting, without doing any work, you have stashed away 159 million Ghana cedis in your account. Okay. Let me land on this note. Hundreds of years to come, when we are all dead, his grandchildren will say that their great-grandfather did well and had money, but you and I were reckless, as was told by Paul Adumochiri, who said that some of us, our fathers, wasted their time, womanizing and other things. Look, the building of this country is not left to the... Even the Zoom Lion worker is building the country. You are building. You got up, you came here at what time? Without your system, who would hear you? We are all building at the same rate. But if a group of people who have come, look at everything they are doing. It's to win election. They are not even thinking about the people. They are not thinking about the suffering. Everything they are doing is to win election. What is in that power that you don't want to release it and you want to win? That means something there.
Is your party not also...
Certainly, why do you think that we shouldn't campaign? Doesn't the Constitution say that we should campaign after 4 years? And we're not doing that.
You're also looking to winning.
Why would we look to winning? Why would you allow them to...
Why are you faulting the present party for wanting to retain power?
Because they have 8 years.
Okay.
And the 8 years, they've just done 7. And what they've done is so abysmal that they should rather be apologizing to the people than to be thinking of extending their stay in power.
To them, maybe they've done wonderfully well.
They should rather be apologizing.
To them, maybe they've done well, and they still have...
It's not about who brought the data into this country.
Yeah.
It's not the one who said that we should be looking at data. So that the data he brought, is it telling him that they've done well? Is the data saying that school children should go and be sleeping in toilets? Is the data saying that today, as I'm talking to you this morning, Get Fund is empty? So a formula has not been passed? Is that what the data is telling us? That we are a junk economy. We cannot borrow. They sacked us. In fact, they caned us and we ran away and came when they used our balance sheet to borrow over the 13 billion, send their own balance sheet, they were chased out. Is that what the data is telling them? The data is rather painting a bleak future for our children, for our mothers who cannot pay their hospital bills. So for me, I agree with you. A day will come, but that day we will get there. We'll certainly get there. And the people of Ghana would make a comparative analysis and say that yes, Asante ma yaswa nsuo ni aswa de is it nsa?
Yeah.
Which is there. So we'll eventually get there. I won't take the sovereignty of the people for granted. I would not do that. As we talk to you, know that the current Prime Minister in Britain is under investigation because of a personal interest.
Yeah.
If we don't do that, we will not strengthen the institutions. If today we can appoint people who we know they are partisan into an electoral body, and there's nothing wrong with it. My brother, tomorrow I will win. I would say they should appoint me to electoral committee. I'm waiting for any of you to talk. If you won't talk, I'm waiting. Or they should appoint our general secretary there. Because that is the way systematically we bastardize and shred the institutions into pieces.
Okay, Honorable, I know that you've been wanting to talk about this whole sleeping in toilets issue that happened in Ghanasco. Yeah. Unfortunately, the newspapers, surprisingly, all the newspapers haven't reported.
I've been wanting to talk because, you see, when issues come up, if we don't accept that it is wrong, we can't move forward. When the free HSS policy came up, if government had allowed the managers of education to critique the policy, wouldn't have gotten to where we are. But you remember that when the policy started to unfold, if you attempt to critique it, you are either changed or you are demoted and sent elsewhere. No policy in the world, no law, when you don't critique it, it cannot be fine-tuned. Gold must be gold when it passes through what? Fire. Gold is simply a stone. Is that not it, my sister? All the minerals are stones until they pass through fire. So every policy must be tested and pass through fire before you get the finest of it. They keep suppressing people's views. They told us that PTAs were not supposed to pay. Today, have you seen that the PTAs have taken over? PTAs are now asking parents to contribute for them to buy food for their kids on our platforms. PTAs are asking us to pay money for infrastructure. PTA they are putting up a lot of, what do you call it, charges on parents. As I speak to you, my son, when he went on holidays for about 2 months, each week I had to give him 100 Ghana to go for extra classes. Each week until he went back to school. Do you know the cost? And are we talking about quality education or quantity? When you talk, they'll tell you that if not be free education, they wouldn't have 100 students would have been there. It's not true.
But you know, they would also say that they have the numbers to show that the students who wrote the WASI since the free SHS coming into the system, the students did amazingly well.
My sister, don't be swayed by such sweet talks. I told you about the devil. You know the devil, when he wants to, he will give you sweet talk. Don't be swayed. Look, take it from me. Years gone by, 10 years down the line, people who had 10 E's are better than people who have got 10 A's now. They can't even write their names. I teach some students. Let me tell you, sometimes I give my questions to them 2 weeks before they write. Some of them will return the empty paper. They cannot construct simple sentences. How can this government pay 68 million Ghana cedis, my sister, to buy pass questions just because you want the students to pass, and you say you have shamed those who were saying that it will not be possible? So they are always looking at it, and they don't look at the process. We have people who have gone through the mill, even though they did not pass. If they are speaking grammar, you would know that this guy went through the mill. Only that, exams, anything can happen. You could go to an exam, that your mind, anything can happen.
You can go blank.
That does not mean you are not brilliant. What numbers show? Ask the teachers what they are going through. Ask teachers. I was in one of the schools here when they admitted one girl. The girl came and they were asking us, that medium in Tibrof. How did the girl come there? You go and buy tell me educational system in the whole world. Then you go and buy past questions at 68 million Ghana cedis. just for your students to pass, so that you shame people and say that, you see, people are saying that, have you seen how, so the issue is, they are passing to what extent? Look, as we sit this morning, the lecturers at the universities are telling us about the weaknesses in the children. They are, I don't teach at the university.
Okay.
All your universities are talking. We say review the system. When we use the word review, you know what they told us?
What did they tell you?
They said we said we should cancel free HSS. So I've been trying to look for the meaning of review. And it's the same.
Would you want to be assured that that is
because even not any fellow, the president, His Excellency, the president said, we say we will cancel it. Repeated by the man who is talking about the impossibility man this morning.
Okay, Honorable. Unfortunately, this is where we have to end News Flash. Well, thank you so much. Your submissions have been very, very amazing, and we are definitely, Honorable. Would you sit in for the Prime Minister conversation, or you will continue on your phone? Please do on Facebook. If you are living, please continue on your phone on Joy Prime TV.
I will.
Yes,
try.
yes, because we are going to update
what
you.
What do you call it?
you are not a giga freak, eh?
Yeah, I'm right.
You have a phobia for all these things.
It's not a phobia, but I think that sometimes they necessarily lead you into areas you are not familiar with.
Okay.
Right.
They can really distort you.
Please familiarize yourself.
So you don't let them take control of you. You go there when it is necessary.
Okay. Oh, this one is necessary.
It's very necessary.
It's very necessary because we are going to give you updates on.
Especially, it's even necessary because he told her he was having migraine, and you made a migraine too. So you can be a very good migraine.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm a healer. Yeah, very good one.
Yeah, you can set. You make money.
Yeah,
and you will be your PR.
Oh yeah, perfect.
I'll be his ambassador. Ambassador.
Testimony.
Yeah.
As to how she healed you by just looking at her.
Right, and so the whole Ghanasco issue on the toilet accommodation saga, we are going to delve into that during Prime Insights alongside the SCC crash as well on the Kaswa Cape Coast Highway. And so all the necessary stakeholders have been assembled for these conversations. And so you don't want to go anywhere at all. You need to stick and stay with us all throughout because we need to update you on what exactly is the story about the toilet accommodation. Is it true? What the journalist brought out, is it true? Because the heads of Ghanasco are also saying it's untrue. Well, they are saying it's untrue. And so we are going to have them on Prime Insights to give us details as to what is true and what isn't true. And so, Honorable...
A whole investigation by the BNF. The president said it wasn't true. Yeah, they hadn't finished. They hadn't finished. You remember the bust issue?
The bust, yes.
They have not finished, but the president said there's nothing to investigate. So why would they accept it?
Well, Honorable, thank you very much for your time. Thank you so very much for joining us here on Newsflash. That is Honorable Timothy Atabuade Awinterin.
Beautiful. I need to
I'm proud of you.
Yeah,
I'm
fantastic. No, it's true. I'm telling you. I know how people have struggled with my name for years.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm telling you the truth. Because I go to most of your stations.
We're at a different breed. You should be coming here more often.
Yeah. You should be helping Baumia.
We should be coming here more often.
Yeah.
And that is how the curtains on this segment is drawn down.